Hello, everyone. I came across another case at West Point, also involving a colonel in '06. And this guy by the name of Colonel William Bright is pending a court-martial. Now, everything that I'm going to tell you here, the presumption of innocence still applies. So he's innocent until proven guilty. But I'm just going to talk about the background of this whole case. So Colonel Wright, graduated from the U.S. Military Academy in 1999. Went off to become an armor officer. Was stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Great base, by the way. Been there. Never did get to see the gold, but nonetheless. So he was a platoon commander. Then became a troop commander. Left there about 2005 time frame, and went off to school. And then in 2008 to 2011 was an associate professor at West Point. Again, teaching this geospatial information science. I'm not smart enough to understand what it entirely means, but nonetheless, he was teaching this subject. Then after West Point, he goes off to get his PhD as well. Finishes that and is assigned to NORAD. After NORAD, he comes back to West Point as the program director for geospatial information science program. And as the program director of West Point, he gets involved in extracurricular activities that most professors do. So he gets involved with the women's tennis team. And the women's tennis team at West Point evidently travels all over the United States to play tennis. Now, I don't understand why they just can't play tennis with, the numerous schools that exist in New York and the surrounding New England states. But nonetheless, so this team travels to Hawaii. It goes to Alaska, and Colonel Wright is one of their chaperones. The other part I don't understand is they've got these male chaperones with an all-female team. Trouble's going to happen, and sure as hell it does. So Colonel Wright starts giving alcohol to the tennis players. That's a big no-no at West Point. Now, you got to remember, West Point's primary mission is to train and educate future leaders of the military. So, and they take that very seriously. So when you got some guy coming around and feeding, young cadets alcohol on the side, you're a fool. You're an idiot, because eventually you're going to get caught, and it's dumb. So not only is he giving them alcohol, but he starts making flirtatious sexual comments, and it gets reported. And so he gets yanked out of there, and and charges are preferred upon him. And the charges essentially are disobeying a regulation because he gave alcohol to cadets. Witness tampering. Then he went back to the cadets and said, "Hey, we got to kill this investigation," and then making false statements. So, the government prefers charges on him, and this happened in June of 2024, and then all of a sudden in October of 2024, the government drops the charges. They pulled them back, and then once again in December of 2024, they recharge him. For the same incidents. And there's 3 charges of disobeying a direct order by providing alcohol to cadets. There's 5 charges of witness tampering with an investigation and whatnot. So he elects for a court-martial with a jury trial. So this is going to take some time to adjudicate, but nonetheless, this incident's happened. And this is not the first incident of sexual nature per se. There was another incident involving a civilian at West Point who was a brigade tactical officer, and this guy evidently got involved with a minor, a 13-year-old child, and and pled guilty to those charges and copped a plea deal where he got 5 years probation and 25 years being registered as a sexual offender. But so here's the issue. So you've got these incidents happening at these academies, and the West Point is not the only one this has happened. This same stuff's happened at the Naval Academy, it's happened at the Air Force Academy, and it's happened at the Coast Guard Academy. There was a big cover-up of sexual allegations that women cadets made, and the command covered it up. So this has been going on for a while, and the problem is we're not dealing with it in the right manner. And the reason being is we deal with these issues after an incident happens. My question is, what are we doing to ensure or to prevent that these incidents don't happen? Yeah, you can give out, general orders and stuff and say, hey, don't fraternize with female cadets, don't give them alcohol. But the point being is, what kind of people are we selecting to be the professors, leaders, and mentors at these academies? And what is that selection process? Now, when I came into the military in early 1980s, there was a very high bar to get in the Marine Corps officer selection program, and you had to be a PT stud. You couldn't. You had to have a GPA of 3.0, which I had trouble making, so I had to work my ass off to get there. And then you had to have no moral issues. So there was no such thing as a moral waiver. You couldn't have done any drugs, any alcohol-related incidents, anything of that nature. So, and not only that, but then the Marine Corps went around checking your background. You had to get recommendations from faculty members, from community leaders, and all that stuff. So they really got a top-notch candidate, and then they put you through the grinder of OCS, the basic school, and all that stuff, and weed out the bad ones. Now, what happened in the 1990s and 2000s, the officers that started coming in, the standards were dropped. So you could have done, you could have smoked a little bit of marijuana, you could have had alcohol-related incident, you could have had, traffic-related incidents, and you were given these moral waivers for all that. And as a result of all this, we just got a different caliber of individual becoming an officer. That's what happened. And as these people are moving up to the higher ranks, we're seeing the results of it. So how can we improve the system? Well, one way of improving the system is before we assign people to these prestigious institutes such as the Naval Academy or the U.S. Military Academy and the other academies, they got to go through a stringent screening process. And you just don't take anybody that can fog glass, he qualifies because he's able to fog glass. You got to take the best and the brightest, not only academically, they've got the right degrees and all that, but they got to have the right moral fiber, the right character that they need to be set the right example for our cadets. I think that's incredibly important. And the way you do that is they got to go through a screening process. So not only do we have to look at their background, but also make sure that they don't have any waivers and stuff that could potentially be problems down the road in an environment where they're interacting with these young cadets who are very impressionable to senior officers. Colonel's a big deal at an academy. It's a big deal anywhere. So that has to be done. The next thing that has to happen is we have to be slightly smarter. What is a colonel doing chaperoning a women's tennis team? I mean, you got to be shitting me. A colonel should have broader responsibilities, broader duties than flying off with the women's tennis team to Hawaii and Alaska, on a boondoggle as a chaperone. Trouble's going to happen eventually. Couldn't they find any women chaperones? What was the interaction between him and the tennis team? And I guarantee you, that there were indicators, there were red flags, and nobody picked up on it. And we got to pick up on this stuff. And if we start assigning the best and the brightest, who also have people of strong character and strong leadership skills, that uphold the highest standards of the military, those are the type of people we want. We don't want little, schmoes that are looking for, a boondoggle, go to Hawaii with the women's tennis team and Alaska, and then on the side, he's making unprofessional, inappropriate remarks to the female cadets and offering them alcohol. The guy's a schmuck, in my opinion. But, he's innocent until proven guilty. So we'll leave it at that. Nonetheless, I do appreciate everybody, leaving comments. I read all of them. I respond to all of them. And I learn from them. I don't claim to be right in all these cases and all these matters. And I encourage you leaving comments to have a discourse so we can learn from each other. I think it's fantastic. That's the purpose of this channel. And a lot of people have left hundreds of comments, and I really do appreciate it. This is an important topic, our military, our national security, because we spend, essentially half of our discretionary budget on the military. And that's a huge amount of money, almost $1 trillion. And the question is, are we getting our money's worth, or can we do better? Those are the things that, I'm interested in. So appreciate the participation, and we'll continue to move forward. And finally, I just so happened that I stumbled across 2 cases at the West Point. So I'm certainly not targeting the Army. I've got a huge amount of respect. And there's other podcasts coming up about other services that I think the viewers should be aware of. Some of the issues that have sort of been swept under the rug, or the mainstream media doesn't necessarily report it for a variety of reasons, right? My main purpose is accountability. We have to have accountability from all the way from the top to the bottom. One set of rules governed by the UCMJ, and our senior officers have to be held to a higher standard. That's the whole purpose. And I think that's very important. And if we do that, we can solve a lot of problems that we're having in-house within the military to ensure that our troops get the best leadership possible. Because we do have the best troops, in my opinion. We've got the best equipment. We've certainly got some of the best training out there. But what we're lacking is when these knuckleheads like these colonels and some generals just don't adhere to the standards of performance and leadership that's expected out of them. That's where we need to get better. That's all I got. Stay rugged. Khan out.